Tropisch Koninkrijk, let me show you how close it is to the end of a tropical dynasty. This is a disaster. Since 2007 we've been shooting these films. Let me show you what progress we've made in the Tropisch Koninkrijk. On the 23rd of May, I was here myself with Stenappa for a clean-up. After the day of biodiversity and discussion, what we're left is some rubbish and just a day in the memory of some people. What a great shame that having these days doesn't mean we take action and stick by it. This used to once give polite instruction about the do's and don'ts of protecting our mangrove. From all of this, what's left is an old poster instructing us about how well we're doing in looking after our nature. I think it's time we pulled our socks up.
Bonaire was one of the first islands to protect its environment and to reach out in order to make sure that it was preserved for future generations to come. With the marine park and the development of Stenappa, it should have everything in place to be one of the most well protected islands in the Caribbean. But somewhere down the road we seem to have lost track. Bonaire's landfill was in fact intended as a temporary solution. In essence, there's nothing wrong with landfilling. It's the only solution that many places have in this area. However, Bonaire's landfill, unfortunately, is ill-managed. They've ignored all advice from UNESCO and from European bodies who've looked at the landfill and told them that a membrane is needed in order not to pollute the lower salinea. Without proper management of what they put on the landfill, there is both a risk of combustion, toxic gases and various other elements which could become very aggressive for the surrounding environment. Stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. For the last 20 years, the politicians, the people of Bonaire, have been fighting to try and get some sort of wastewater system, some sort of sewerage system online to protect its people and its environment. It's been a long time coming, and unfortunately what is about to come is neither appropriate for the population now that it's risen, and it won't solve the problem unless it goes hand in hand with a proper management plant. The problem is Bonaire, with a population at the moment of, let's say, between 19 and 20,000 over the next couple of years, will not be able to service the larger of the two intended wastewater management systems. We'd need much more volume for that. The second problem is the intention of this wastewater facility would be to redistribute that water back along to the seafront areas, where we'd in actual fact be recreating the very problem that we're trying to get away from.
And this is the project that they are building for 24 million euro, and I think the Dutch government also promised to put 5 extra million euro. This is going to be something that is unpayable for the people of Bonaire, and it has no added value to protect the area that they are supposed to protect. Right. I mean, everybody knows about it. Everybody has, if you read the reports, if you see what is the results that this whole huge investment is going to bring forward for us, everybody can say it is a white elephant.
As you can see, they've started to fence the land off in order that wildlife won't come freely roaming in and poison itself in the trenches. The problem with this situation, and it's a problem that we face to date, is, as you can see from this trench, there is no management whatsoever as to what's in the trucks and where they go. And unfortunately, even with the best will in the world, the new interim plant or the larger plant will not succeed unless we know what is going in there. One truck, for example, with waste oil such as this, going into our new interim plant would halt the whole system and become extremely expensive and very costly. This is happening in St. Martin and other Caribbean islands, and for us to follow suit, knowing this, is ridiculous.
On the face of it, this new power production plant looks like something we should be extremely proud of. It looks very clean and well organised. It was presented to us as a way of using reusable energy, both from biodiesel and also from algae production.
Add to that the fact that this is built inside a green zone and on the very edge of a Ramsar site. One wonders if it really is worth the ecological balance that it's supposed to provide.
Unfortunately, what they weren't too clear about was the fact that we would use heavy oil when those commodities were not available. Heavy oil needs to be centrifuged, and basically what you get is crude oil. You put it into a centrifuge, you spin it, and you end up with a burnable fuel. The byproducts are many and extremely hazardous. And if it's not done correctly, the discharge from the exhaust will also be extremely hazardous and will fall outside any of the European laws that are in place with regards to exhaust emission control. Therefore, extra expense will be added to the plant to make these exhausts come out into a more favourable manner, bearing in mind that at the moment we are producing no algae and the wind generators are not functioning. It seems once again we're looking at a herd of white elephants.
This is the beginning of the hurricane season. Fortunately, Bonaire lays below the hurricane belt. However, in a paper recently written, it was discovered that by carbon dating some of these huge rocks that once stood here, we could actually establish when tsunamis occurred, when major tropical storms occurred. They've bulldozed and taken away and quarried all of the stones. They're supposed to have left a 4-metre defence boundary buffer zone between here and the water. It's gone. One has to ask oneself. Recently there was a film made called the Tropisch Koninkrijk. I have to ask myself if this is not the last frontier. And did anybody really care anyway?
Where have these stones gone? They've been crushed and used for sand in development. We can't blame the contractors. They're just doing their job and making their living. And the developers, of course, need those raw materials in order to make their developments. It's part of Bonaire's growth. It's such a tragic shame, though, that over the last 8 years, we haven't shown the foresight that was needed in order to protect what is a natural part of this island. A natural history book, which, as I said, could give you data about weather patterns over the past thousands of years. And when they've gone, they're irreplaceable. We can't put them back. It's a sad, sad fact that nobody thought about the value of these stones that were just laying there, apparently without any good reason. What they've done on the east coast is absolutely incomprehensible. The stones that lay there were absolutely massive. Some of them would have taken huge, huge storms to have put them there on the land. And this may have happened, as I said, maybe tens, maybe 20,000 years ago. The damage that was done not because of ignorance. Many people stood up and said, please stop this. This is part of our natural defence for the oceans by our side and also for the flora and fauna which grows there along that ocean front. However, it all fell on deaf ears, and what's left now is a barren land. Picture an Eskimo in his village, and he'd love to show people how wonderful and miraculous things live beneath the ice. He tells a few of his friends, and they all come, and in turn, of course, they tell their friends. Before too long, there's way too many people standing on the ice, and the very thing that they were wonderstruck for is now about to be destroyed. It's a story, but it's a story which is very similar to Bonaire's own story. From the time we went for mass tourism with cruise ships, we basically started to break the ice that the people might want to come and see. And this is a situation that's not just here, it's global. We've done it in many places. Some areas in the world, however, have had the foresight to limit their tourism to sustainable levels, something we have to do both in fisheries, farming, agriculture, and everywhere in life if we're going to support ourselves and carry on in the way that would be sustainable. Unfortunately, it would seem that with the development, the rapid growth of tourism, and the lack of foresight with regards to its impact, Bonaire's future is questionable.